We have, again, Pam Bondi and Marco Rubio up right now going through their Senate confirmation hearings. We have really you see Pam Bondi taking more center stage today because the thought process is Marco Rubio kind of going to sail through. Colleague of a lot of these people, very trusted. He'll probably be fine. Pam Bondi, maybe a little more scrutiny, specifically after the whole Matt Gaetz debacle.
Senator Hirono from Hawaii, she yesterday was in the Pete Hegseth hearing and was questioning him. She was very aggressive about his record and things he had written. But what we've got today is now, this happened just before we came on air. This is Senator Hirono now questioning Pam Bondi. And I think it really shows also the hypocrisy of the left of wanting the 15 minutes of fame of asking these questions, but not doing the pre-work when these nominees have been made available to every senator to have meetings with and do the pre-work. There was a certain senator that decided not to have a meeting with the Attorney General nominee, Pam Bondi. Let's go ahead and listen to this back and forth, and then I want to get Professor Hutchison's take on it.
That you as Attorney General should investigate one of his perceived political enemies. Would you do so?
Senator Hirono, I wish you had met with me. Had you met with me, we could have discussed many things and gotten to know.
I am listening to you now. Could you respond to the question?
Yeah, you were the only one who refused to meet with me, Senator. But what we would have discussed is that it is the job of the Attorney General to follow the law.
I'm very happy to listen to your responses under oath, Ms. Bondi. So I think it's really important to us that the Attorney General be independent of the White House. And you have a president-elect who considers the AG's office his law firm. I would like to know whether if the president suggests, hints, asks, that you as Attorney General should investigate one of his perceived enemies?
Senator, I certainly have not heard the president say that. But what I will tell you is 2/3 of Americans have lost faith in the Department of Justice. And it's statements like that, I believe,
Ms.
that
Bondi,
make people continue to lose faith. If I am confirmed as Attorney General, it will be my job to not only keep Americans safe, but restore integrity to that department.
Why don't we
and that's
move
what
on
I
to something
plan on
that
doing
you said
every single day as Attorney General.
Professor Hutchison, obviously the rich irony of the left pointing this out as we've watched 4 years of politicized prosecutions from the Department of Justice. We even heard that in recent interviews that President Biden was angered and upset by Merrick Garland for not going after Trump aggressively enough. We know the dual hand of justice that was given to the president's son, as well as the aggressive nature of which the FBI and the Department of Justice would go after peaceful pro-life protesters or parents at school board meetings. But yet they make it seem as though the end of the Department of Justice is about to begin because of what they perceive that President Trump wants the DOJ to do, when in reality, the next Attorney General will have a big mess to clean up from what the previous administration did as far as political prosecutions.
I think that's precisely correct. And so I think it's clear that delusional Democrats are afraid that Donald Trump and his administration, his nominees, particularly for Attorney General, will act just like the Democrats have acted for the last 4 years. The Democrats have targeted virtually every political enemy that they could find based on charges that do not have any basis in either law or facts. And so now Senator Hirono, who is perhaps the leading intellectual light in the Democratic Party, she is arguing that Pam Bondi will actually enforce the law and go after individuals who've engaged in criminal misconduct. If those individuals happen to be Democrats, of course Pam Bondi should go after them. But Pam Bondi and the Trump administration will not target individuals simply because they are Democrats, even though the Democrats have targeted Republicans simply because they have an R in front of their name.
We also have Senator Marco Rubio, who's testifying at the same time. And I know some on the more conservative side may have been concerned about maybe some neocon type policies that maybe he would bring, or that he's more hawkish. And we've always appreciated Senator Rubio, and I thought it was a great pick for Secretary of State. But this, I think, should put to rest any concerns that maybe some in the MAGA movement may have had early on by this statement here. This is Bite 5.
Out of the triumphalism of the end of the long Cold War emerged a bipartisan consensus. And this consensus was that we had reached the end of history, that all of the nations of the world would now become members of the democratic Western-led community, that a foreign policy that served the national interest could now be replaced by one that served the liberal world order, and that all mankind was now destined to abandon national sovereignty and national identity and would instead become one human family and citizens of the world. This wasn't just a fantasy. We now know it was a dangerous delusion.
Professor Hutchison, right there, some of the concerns that maybe it would have more of that old school traditionalist Republican style foreign policy coming out of our Secretary of State. When he's calling a liberal world order not just a fantasy, it's a dangerous delusion. I mean, that is right out of the playbook of the America First movement and rejecting globalism. And I was really, really pleased by the strength of that statement in that hearing today.
Absolutely. I was encouraged as well, because what he is rejecting is Francis Fukuyama's book, The End of History. It is a liberal order delusion based on openness, tolerance, and inclusion without necessarily supporting the sovereignty and the nationalism that is connected with sovereign states. And so I think Senator Rubio has made a fantastic start simply by rejecting what the liberals, both Republican and Democrat, have supported for the last 30 or 40 years. He is rejecting this end of history view, which has seen the United States get involved in hundreds of wars. The United States, for instance, has 800 bases throughout the world, meaning that a conflict could break out at any time involving U.S. troops. And so I think Senator Rubio and Donald Trump are rejecting this end of history vision, and I think that's fantastic news.